the Madman!
Welcome once again to the top 10 most upvoted cards in custom Hearthstone. This week, we have Card Theft, a 0 mana priest legendary spell. Spend all your mana, steal a card from your opponent's deck that costs equal to the mana spent. Very targeted disruption, which is cool. I'm pro targeted disruption in general. Design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. I do think it is properly balanced because you could basically spend 6 mana for like a do nothing, but it would have meant that you really want to get rid of the Lady Prestor that may still be lurking in the Druid deck. Requires a bit of knowledge, requires a bit of reading on seeing whether or not they actually have it in their hand, because if you spend 6 mana, they don't have a 6 mana card in their deck, then poof, it is actually 6 mana do nothing. I do think this card could be non-legendary, and that would be grounds for like potentially being very disruptive, and like you could have anti-combo cards, and this card is clearly terrible against aggro and mid-range, because you cannot afford to be spending lots of mana to not be dealing with immediate threats. Imperator Refong. 7 mana, 7/8, battle cry. Resurrect 4 friendly imps. Infuse 4, choose an evil artifact to empower your imps. The evil artifacts are the following. Blood Bomb. Give your imps death rattle, deal 1 to 4 damage randomly to an enemy. Venthyr Goblet. Give your imps death rattle, add a random golden legendary minion to your hand. The Lantern of Power. Give your imps +2/+2, which is the same as the current Refong. Forbidden Book. Give your imps death rattle, summon a 2/2 copy of a random minion in your opponent's deck. And the Sire's Favorite Apple. Give your imps death rattle, cast a random spell that costs 5 or less. I think that this is a fine direction for Refong to have gone as well. I do think in the nature of Discover it should be choosing from 3, not from 5, or not even choose 3 from a 5 subsection. Could even still be the old 6 mana 6/6. Doesn't necessarily need to be a 7 mana 7/8, but could be a 7 mana 7/8 too. Why not? Next up, we've got a Rogue spell, 3 mana, Judge, Joey, and Executioner. Add a 1/5 Darkshard Councilman, a 1/1 Mecharoo, and a 4/3 Fellsteel Executioner to your hand. Design 1 star. Balance 5 stars. So this card pretty much is here strictly to make a pun on the idea of the phrase judge, jury, and executioner. It's a Joey, haha! You do generate 3 cards, one of which is neutral, 2 of which are from classes outside of the main rogue class, which can be useful. Main problem with this in terms of design is the entire, card text is just legalese of the names of cards that you'll specifically add into your hand. It just looks terrible. This only works in English, which is something that I constantly dock points on. The Judge, yes. The Executioner, yes, that translates, but I really doubt in other languages Joey will ever translate to Mecharoo. And while the card is balanced, it is 3 mana, generate 3 cards, it just lacks any appeal at all. It's so random. Next, we've got a Paladin's Holy Spell. Guilty! 2 mana, destroy a minion that killed someone last turn. Design 3 stars, balance 2 stars. So I took a few points off of design because of the templating, and because it's a holy spell. I feel like guilty, all uppercase, exclamation mark, isn't holy. Killed is a bit of a, it's a little strong for Hearthstone. Destroy a minion that destroyed another minion, someone last turn, killed someone. Yeah, that's a bit much. It should probably also say killed someone on your opponent's last turn. That's used as a response card. The balance is a low rating because I think the card is way underpowered. I probably should just be 1 mana. It is a card that can only be used in response if your opponent chooses to kill a minion with their minion. That just doesn't happen a lot. It could potentially even cost 0 mana. A secret for Rogue. It's Gnomish Escape. 2 mana, Secret, when your opponent plays a minion, they summon a 1/1 gnome instead. Design, 2 stars, balance, 5 stars. The card that they were playing is meant to go back to their hand. So essentially, instead of playing their minion, they're interrupted by a gnome coming out of a bag. That's apparently the flavor of this card, and I gotta say that's some weak sauce flavor. I don't get it. Also, the templating is not obvious. It should read the same as Ice Trap reads. When your opponent plays a minion, return it to your hand instead. They summon a 1/1 gnome. But yeah, it's one of those cards that, sure, balance-wise it works out, but you're gonna have to tie in the Flava Flav a bit better. But it is always hilarious to see a gnome pop out of a situation and say, "Woohoo, you've been gnomed." Next up is the cute, adorable Squishy. 0 mana, 0/1 beast, legendary. Legendary in our hearts, Squishy. Your deck size is 31. Battlecry, draw a card. All attacks and spells have a 90% chance to miss Squishy. Can't gain attack. Oh, it's so cute! I want to upvote it and have it be one of the top cards of the week. 1-star design, 1-star balance! Ah! So Squishy comes from this Naga Scribe card. It's that little cute ball who's just chilling next to the Naga Scribe.
Sorry, Squishy, I'm working.
This card has committed so many cardinal sins. First sin, it's a 0 mana card that draws a card. Now the author, credit to the author, decided, hey, Trump's gonna chastise me for this. It's a classic problem of a 0 mana cantrip just means you're running a 29 card deck. So let's include a 5th line of text on the text box, which is another cardinal sin. You only 4 lines of text on the card box. They decided, oh, well, to fix that, all we have to do is make the deck size 31. Then that means your deck size is still 30 when you run this Squishy. But you know what just happens? Then every single deck in the game just decides to run this 31 card deck with a minor benefit of Squishy, which you now have to make everyone craft a legendary for, because if you don't have Squishy in your deck, then you're running a suboptimal deck. Because despite only being a 0/1, there are real tangible benefits to a 0 mana, 0/1 minion which draws a card. One, it's a beast, which has a beast synergy. 2, if your opponent ever has any AoE, then, it's a thing on the board, it dies, especially with the new set, Infuse. Why do we have a 90% chance to miss Squishy? Like, 9 out of 10? The card was perhaps seen as too overpowered if it could gain attack as well, if you could buff it. You can give this thing taunt, and then your opponent's basically attacks are all pretty random. With Field Agent, you just simply, get an extra card when you play Field Agent and then toss in Squishy. With the new Kael'thas Sinstrider card, you can go Kael'thas, Squishy, and then play your 10 mana card. Any deck that runs Brand can just slide in Squishy to draw an extra card. Anyways, the point is, no matter how pointless the card seems to be, that just says draw a card. That's ridiculous. It's overpowered. Don't take this as a challenge to make a card that is actually balanced around that, because you'd have to add all sorts of legalese text and it wouldn't be interesting at all anymore. Down with Squishy. Your cute face does not stop me from rating you 1 star. Friendly Giant. 12 mana 8/8. This costs 1 less for each 1 cost minion you've played this game. Design 5 stars, balance 3 stars. Your classic giant that is an 8/8, which gets discounted when you do stuff. Balance 3 because I feel like it's probably a bit underpowered at the moment. Probably could cost 10. Giants are cards you need a lot of testing for, but I don't think this is enough payoff for playing 1 cost minions. But yeah, nice, simple, cool. Warlock gets Nerzhuls Phalactery, a 1 mana legendary shadow spell. Oh my god, look at all that text! Your hero can only take 1 damage at a time while this quest is active. Quest, take 10 damage. Reward, die horribly. Design 1 star, balance 3 stars. Quest should not have negative rewards. It doesn't make sense. I know that you're just trying to use the baseline, the mechanical side of a quest. It is a simple way to implement the design, but it's not how you should do it. And it's also bad design because this is a card that you do not want on turn 1. And you would get in your opening hand, and then you would just mulligan it all the time, which isn't a very interesting decision. Before you remark, like, oh my god, it's 10 turns of Ice Block, that's super OP. It's not 10 turns of Ice Block. You can still lose while the quest is active. If you play this at 1 health, your opponent will just deal 1 damage to you and then you'll die. Ultimately, you have to think about how much damage this is actually taking off of you. The ideal time to play this would be at 10 health or 11 health or something around there. And then if your opponent is dealing like all sources of 1 damage still, then basically nothing changed, so the card did nothing. Realistically, your opponent's gonna do damage that is not all in ones, and then you'll gain some amount of health. And I think the amount of health you're gonna gain with the Phylactery is somewhere in the 10 to 15 range. Hard to give the exact number. The balance on this card, since it's healing for around 10 to 15 damage, is thus a little bit on the strong side. You know, maybe just make it 2 mana, whatever. Ultimately, this is a really confusing way of adding a sort of Warlock heal. You could make this one of those side quests as well, since side quests do not start in your opening hand. That would be a little bit better, but then you would be on a side quest to take damage, and then the reward is to lose. Like, that's just confusing, doesn't make sense. Next, you've got Repetitious Sorcerer, a rogue mage dual class card. 6 mana, 6/6, stealth, spell damage +6, spell burst, silence this minion. Cool idea, design 5 stars, balance 2 stars. So the Sorcerer is a clever idea that the spell damage can only be used once. This is similar to Talented Arcanist, the 2 mana 1/3, which has spell damage +2 on the next spell you cast. So Repetitious Sorcerer is a more flexible way because the Talented Arcanist has to be this turn. Sorcerer can stay in stealth, and then next turn it can attack, and then you can cast your big spell, it gets spell damage +6, and your single spell will get spell damage +6, and then the card is silenced, and then there you have it. Where the card could be a little overpowered, perhaps, a lot overpowered, is you play a card, or maybe you've already played cards that have spell damage effects which don't require casting a spell. For example, rogues can precast Garrote and then play the Repetitious Sorcerer. It hides out in stealth, you eventually draw the bleeds, they all get +6 spell damage. That's a lot of damage. But sure, maybe you can print this card after Garrote rotates. Then you've got the problem of any spells that have multiple spells cast without actually casting a spell. For example, Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron, you'll get lots of spells cast, and you'll get the spell damage +6 on each of those spells. There's a few cards here and there that will be problematic with it, but the most blatantly problematic with it is the spell damage +6 is just too much. 6 mana 6/6 stealth is very, very hard to remove. You should assume that it'll stay on the board, and the spell damage +6 will carry over. There is a danger to carrying over spell damage over turns because that lets you set up some crazy things. That's why Talented Arcanist is probably for a spell cast this turn. So I have a simple suggestion. Spell damage could be brought down to +2 spell damage. Then it's a cool card with a 6 mana 6/6 stealth with like a minor boost to spell damage for one time, and you can save the spell damage carryover. You could lower the stats, you could up the spell damage up to a point that it wouldn't be like too spooky. Like even if it's just a single spell, spell damage +6 is still pretty spooky. And finally, Ghost Rager! The top upvoted card of the custom Hearthstone Reddit is also this week's Trump Card of the Week! Yay! 1 mana 5/0 with Infuse 1, gain +1 health. This is uniquely a 1 mana 5/0, which has never been done in Hearthstone before, but I believe it can be done. I believe people understand what it would mean to play a 5/0. But it shouldn't be common, it should probably be epic or something. So Infuse 1 means like after a minion has died, you get the chance to play a 1 mana 5/1, which is your payoff for having a minion die, I guess. That's not too hard, but it does mean that you can't play this Ghost Rager on turn 1. basically play it on turn 2. You have a comparable card already, the 1 mana 4/1 with Rush and Dormant. I think we're fine to have a 1 mana 5/1, which requires a minor jump, a minor hoop to jump through in order to get to. So there you have it. It's well balanced, it's well designed, it's a rager. Design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. Oh, probably shouldn't be an elemental because it's too ghosty. You fill the ghost up with blood, and then it has 1 health. Excellent. Cool cards as always. Keep tuning in to see what custom Hearthstone is brewing up in their Reddit.